What's up? What's up? What's good, my beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast you're obsessed with. It is the Uncovered podcast. Of course, I'm your girl, Katie, the one and only. I'm feeling a little bit incognito today. So if you joining me YouTube on video, you see what the vibe is. I'm just on this type of time today. If you just listen to my voice, I'm going to encourage you, tap in with me on YouTube, the Uncovered podcast. I appreciate everybody tuning in, audio especially because that's where I started off. But definitely tap in with me on YouTube. It's the progress for me, you know? I mean, that's the key to happiness, right? At least I believe so. The key to happiness, literally to me, is continuous progress and movement. Not to place too much pressure, even though we always place so much pressure on ourselves to just be this unrealistic, perfect, ideal person. But that's just the human in us, the imperfect nature in us to be perfect. I wonder why that is. We just strive so hard to put on a certain image a lot of times, and that image is not even healthy to even attempt to try to portray, you know? I just wonder a lot of times, like, why is that? Why do we oftentimes try to portray ourselves in a light that we are just incapable of being, as in being perfect or not making mistakes or failing? All of those things are okay to do, but when you're on the other end of that, like somebody is making a mistake towards you, somebody has treated you a certain way, and you had a certain level of expectation for this person, that changes things. But it's not about being perfect. It's absolutely about being imperfect, but striving to be better. However, we as a people, it seems like we have such a difficult time just like being exactly who we are. Like we try to portray and put on this certain persona to attract women, men, people, jobs, careers, positions, roles, whatever the case may be. Like everything is always to kind of gain something. And without being able to understand your place, I guess, in all of that, then if you don't really know who you are, it just kind of gets all confused. And we just tend to try to impress. And I was just on social media today, and somebody was talking about how he blames women for basically how men treat women because women allow it. And if we only knew how much power or control that we had, then we would basically snatch that shit from these men. And my thing is, you absolutely right, women have a lot of power. You are absolutely right that we control a lot of how we allow men to treat us. But where is the accountability? There has to be accountability in there somewhere to identify how you play a role in that. Like, when I think about the things that I've experienced and the things that I've learned, especially in these past couple of years of knowing what I will and what I put up with, it takes you to experience a lot of things in order to make that strong um, judgment or notion that this is exactly what I'm not about to bend on. And, you know, one thing for certain and one thing for sure is that people gonna have the audacity. They're gonna have the audacity to offer you lies that you didn't even ask for. They have the audacity to pretend, the audacity to utilize you for personal gain. Now, in my opinion, everybody has to be used in some form of fashion. I think I was listening to Joel Osteen the other day on YouTube, and he was talking about how our value is not placed in our ability to be used. But when I think about that statement, I agree to a certain extent, but at the same time, like, if you're not able to be used, how can you really be valuable? You have to have something that is worth being attracted to, and not physically, obviously. I mean, there is that aspect, but I'm not even talking about that. Like, in order to be used in far as the workplace, in order to be in order to move forward and gain traction and leadership and things of that nature, like, you have to have those abilities and capabilities, and you have to form those things. And if we don't do that, if we lose track of the value that we have to instill in ourselves, how can we then be used by the masses, or how can we be trusted? But a lot of times we find, and I see, and I've even experienced, just feeling like, you know how you be feeling played sometimes? You just feel played because of how people will go about using you, or how they will not build a proper rapport, or they don't really know how to build that connection. So then there's this kind of weird energy. And at the end of the day, we all have to be used in some form of capacity, because if you cannot be used, that means you're useless. Or is that what it means? Yeah, that's basically what it means. I found that out, that it's not, it's better to be able to be used, but absolutely not to be taken advantage of. And that's the difference. Making sure that we're not taken advantage of. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a way to make sure that we are continuously paying attention to how we change and the things that we need, and how we are developing ourselves, and making sure that we see exactly what we need to see. Even with family, like, there's obvious ways that we can utilize each other and be valuable to each other. But when I think about the love that comes with family, I think that when it comes to love between a parent and their child, that idea of unconditional love can exist. But if we're talking about love between people, as far as like in a relationship or friendships, your acquaintances, associates, people on your job, love is not unconditional. I really do believe that the only way to really have true unconditional love is through God. God is the definition of unconditional love, because He loves us regardless. But even I was talking to my cousin today, and we were talking about how, you know, all we have to do is just ask God for forgiveness, and He will wipe away our wrongs. Right? Well, in my mind, that's not exactly true, because if that's the case, then we wouldn't have to be punished. But because we are imperfect, and because we are constantly making mistakes, and we oftentimes will choose wrong, even when we know better, even when we know right. And they say, when you know better, you do better. Even as adults, we act like children. But that's why, I guess, well, let me not say I guess, but that's why we need God's grace in regards to His unconditional love. Because even when we step into that lane, knowing exactly what we're doing, and knowing damn well that we ain't supposed to be doing it, or that we don't have no business, we just, what, ask for forgiveness. Like, okay, well, I'm about to do this, and then I know I can just ask for forgiveness. That's not how it works. I know that's not how it works, but somehow we always end up in this repetitive cycle. But to even be able to ask for forgiveness, but also know that we do still have to go through our struggles and our challenges and the things that give us pain, the things that come to make us stronger. Why do we have to suffer? Why do women have to go through so much labor? Why do we have to experience so many different levels of the unknown? Because that's exactly what life is. But to make choices, especially to be an adult, is to make whatever that best choice is in the moment. And a lot of times we fall short of whatever that best option is because we get blindsided and we get distracted. I get distracted often. We all get distracted at times. And getting back in place is, that's the goal. That's the main priority. But having to be exposed to situations and circumstances that are beyond your control that really, really test you, and you have to find a way out and a way through and a way to overcome, knowing damn well that we will overcome it, but not being able to see the storm from for the rain, you know. Like me, I'm definitely going through a transition right now where I am trying to figure out the next step and the next level for Uncovered, and the person that I am becoming as I uncover who I am and the process of what Uncovered will be, and just the progress and the progression, which is the same thing, but making it bigger and better, and trying to see what that looks like, and making sure that I don't fall short of that and continue to keep going and keep moving. And it's just so real when you have something that is yours and you have to become something to make something. That is such a real statement, like who you become in the process of whatever it is that you're trying to attain. That is so significant and so important because I know that I've transitioned and changed in such significant ways in since the conception of what I thought this started off and what it is now. And just understanding that ideology and that reality of not knowing exactly what the response is going to be, not knowing exactly how that support or what that support is going to look like, because you always expect that it should be more than what it is. I guess you can say, like how people all the time, they're like, it's always the people who don't even know your name, barely, who will scream the loudest for you and who will support you without question, just with the quickness, versus like people that you actually do know or family. Why is that? Why are we like that? I just wonder, because you know it's very interesting to me because I'm one of those people, like I will scream so loud for anybody that I fuck with, like all my people, any of my people who got something going on, like I will be your cheerleader and I will give you that encouragement and that inspiration that I crave, because I know that that's something that I love. And maybe that's selfish of me to want to give you this motivation and this inspiration because that's something that I love, but that's also something that's going to benefit you. It's not going to harm you, it's not going to hurt you. So to have that and to be able to give that is something that makes me feel really good to do. But not everybody can do that. Not everybody can clap for you, and that's okay. That is absolutely okay. But I know one thing that I am working on is just one thing that I want to change about myself and that I'm working on is just my issue with having resentment at times with people who I feel as though they may have treated me unfairly. Because in my mind, I already understand that there are levels to um, there are levels to leverage, and there are levels to being able to have access to certain people at certain times. And if I happen to be on the other end of feeling, for whatever reason, treated unfairly or looked over or not as favored, then it makes me feel some type of way. And I try not to allow it to show because I'm gonna be honest, my poker face is not that great. It really ain't. And I don't even know if I'd be trying at this point to have my poker face up. But it is definitely not the best poker face at all. So that is definitely a goal and something that I'm striving to just work more on. It's just not feeling that way and making sure that that is not something that I feel controlled by or makes me feel frustrated by. Because, I mean, let's be honest, everybody feels resentment in some form and fashion at some point, and there's always going to be unfair treatment in some way, form, or fashion because there's levels to everything. And I know that. I know that. But when I end up on the other side of it, bro, I don't like that shit. I just really don't. But, you know, it it will come a time where the people who don't clap as loud are going to be forced to notice. And that's what happens a lot of times with business. That's what happens a lot of time with a lot of things because you just keep showing up. You just keep proving them wrong or just keep surprising them. You know, hey, I love to say I'm full of surprises. So doubt me, baby. I done doubted myself plenty. You can't doubt me more than I done doubted myself at this point. And that's kind of the idea of that reverse motivation, I guess, that inspiration. Like, that's also another reason why I love talking shit because it's like another way and another form of inspiring and motivating my damn self on why the fuck would you not want to listen to the Uncovered. I be speaking about some real ass shit. Most people don't even can't even dare have, you know, more in-depth conversations because they don't take the time to think about different things or to ask themselves questions to get to know themselves. And that's something that I've definitely been trying to do and I've been doing more of because I had to change some things about my damn self. Like a long while ago, a couple of years ago, how I would just feel angry or I guess I would react in a more angered, frustrated way, and as a response to people asking me too many questions, um, people not paying attention. I mean, even to this day, if you ask me too many questions, I'm like, okay, do not disturb. Because that's what I was talking about in my last episode. Like, don't ask me all these questions and you don't even have a point. And it sounds silly to hear, like, why are you tripping about asking questions? Well, I already explained that part. It's not even about the asking questions. It's I would used to get frustrated because if you ask me a question, or maybe you ask me a question and I would respond and you don't hear me, and I'm like, how could you not hear me?